To follow this tutorial, it is important that you know what is intersection over union. I have a tutorial on it, so please check it out if you have not already done so. In brief, IOU provides you a similarity measure between two bounding boxes. It is 1 if there is a perfect overlap, 0 if there is no overlap at all, and a value between 0 and 1 depending on the amount of the overlap. When I ended the tutorial on IOU, I had brought up this idea about using it as a loss function for training the neural networks. But before I answer that, let's understand why we should be motivated to do so. In this picture, the green is a ground truth bounding box and orange is the predicted box. And to compute the loss between the ground truth and predicted boxes, I could use L1 loss or L2 loss. They have different properties, but for our discussion, that's not the thing that we are focusing on. All you want to see is that the values of L1 and loss for this image and this bounding boxes is 648 and some big number for L2. And they are different as it is expected. Now what I have done here is that I have scaled down the image. The bounding boxes have scaled down as well. And as you can see, L1 and L2 losses are now very different. You see, the bounding boxes have not changed in proportions, but the scale change is heavily impacting the loss values. Here is one more scaled down version of the same image. And as we were expecting, the loss values are different again. Based on this, we can say that both L1 and L2 loss functions for the regression of bounding box coordinates are not scale invariant. And that is our primary motivation, to use a scale invariant metric like IOU as the loss function. But I wish things were that straightforward. The trick here is that in machine learning, you use the loss function to compute gradients to update the parameters of the network. In the case of bounding boxes that do not overlap, the IOU is always 0, whether the boxes are closer to each other or further from each other. Meaning the gradient information is not there, it's 0 when your IOU is 0. And this is a bummer. And we are back to where we started. Now the trouble is that even for a minute, if we ignore the scale variant aspects of L1 and L2 loss functions, there is a bit more nuisance associated with them. Consider these three situations. The green boxes are the ground truth boxes. They are all the same. Black ones are the predictions. Note that even though the predictions are quite different from each other, their L1 norm is same. Whereas the IOUs are quite different, and rightly so. This means that there is a disconnect between the loss functions that we are using here and the evaluation metric, and that is no good. The situation is not specific to L1 loss. In this picture, you can see the usage of L2 loss, and like before, the IOUs are indeed different. These use cases were described in a paper called Generalized Intersection over Union. It's a 2019 paper with more than 3,000 citations. And it is the first true attempt to use IOU as both a metric and a loss function. As you can see that their formulation of GIO gives almost similar results as vanilla IOU. And the algorithm they propose is quite simple and straightforward. You essentially create the smallest box that can cover both ground truth and predicted boxes, and you incorporate that as an additional penalty term in the loss function and minimize it. Let me explain it with some visualizations. Here I have a ground truth box of area 1 centered at 10, 10, and this is an anchor box that is an assumed good start for the predicted box. As you can see, this box looks similar to our ground truth box when it comes to its aspect ratio, but it is far away and there is no overlap at all. And so the IOU at the moment is 0. As per the GIO algorithm, I am drawing another box that covers the ground truth and the anchor box. The paper calls it the convex box or the convex hull. A bit fancy name to scare you for something simple if you ask me. And here is the formulation of the GIOU. Now I'm going to use gradient descent and minimize this loss function. This is step 1. You saw a little movement of the box, a bit more in the step 2, and some more, and now I let it run for 200 steps. Pay attention to the fact that GIU portion of the loss is increasing the predicted box size to completely overlap with the target box. And after the overlap, the IOU term of the loss will help match the predicted box to the target box. And as you can see that it works. I have not yet described how I perform the gradient descent. For example, the learning rate that I used. I will explain that in next few minutes, and there is a corresponding Colab notebook in which you will find all the code and details and whatnot. The next loss function I want to explain is called distance IOU loss. This is also a 2019 paper published few months after GIO with almost 2000 citations. This is a very well written paper with a lot of insights and analysis. The authors did a thorough study of GIU loss, identified its limitations, and proposed a remedy that is a new loss function called distance IOU. In this figure, the authors show that the convergence of GIU loss is quite slow in comparison to their proposed loss function. You can see that for the same set of bounding boxes as shown in this figure, it took about 400 iterations for GIU, and that still is not perfectly overlapping the ground truth, whereas for DIU it was 120. They also observed that once the boxes are enclosed, it will completely degrade to IOU loss. Now, they also have a statement here which says that it yields inaccurate detections. It's a bit of a strong statement. I have not personally verified that. They do have some examples towards the end of the paper where they show it, but I have a reason to believe that it could be from some other factors. And finally, they propose that instead of the area, it is more efficient to minimize the normalized distance between the central points of the two bounding boxes, and hence the usage of word distance in the name of their loss function. This is the penalty term they add to the IOU loss function. The numerator is a Euclidean distance between the central points of the two bounding boxes, and the denominator is the diagonal length of the smallest enclosing box. Yes, very much like GIU, there is a convex box in DIOU. Let me show you all this with the help of some visuals. So far, our setup is same as that of GIU. I have used the same two boxes and have drawn here the convex box, the smallest possible enclosing box. This is a line that shows the distance between the central points of the two boxes, and this is a diagonal of the convex box. Finally, here is the formulation of DIOU, and I let it run using our gradient descent. I'm using exactly the same learning rate settings as I used for GIU. Geometrically speaking, you can observe that there is quite a difference from GIU, and indeed it seems to converge faster. So this was DIU. Now, in the same paper, the authors describe one more extension to DIU. Essentially, one additional term that also takes into consideration the aspect ratios of the bounding boxes. They say that other than the overlap area and the central point distance, we should consider aspect ratio as an important geometric factor. There are two variables to note here in this additional term, alpha and nu. Nu measures the consistency of the aspect ratio, whereas alpha is the trade-off parameter here. Let's look at one more visualization, but this time instead of just using CIOU, I will use all of them, that is GIU, DIU and CIU, and this way you can visually compare them how they are converging. Nothing has changed about our boxes. The starting point of IOU is 0 for all three experiments because our boxes do not overlap. And here I let it run. Notice that in the visualization of the predicted box for DIU, it is rarely visible, but it is there. If you pay close attention, you can see it. It is hidden behind CIU. In other words, both DIU and CIU are behaving almost the same for this example of bounding boxes. All of three managed to converge our anchor box to the ground truth box as well. And this brings up a question that you are thinking about. where could we see some benefits of using CIU instead of DIUU? Again, one more time, note that for this example, bounding boxes, the aspect ratio between them is fairly similar, and hence most likely aspect ratio term of CIU is not doing its magic. So let's do that magic. Let me show you the same experiment again, but this time I will use an anchor box with a different aspect ratio than our ground truth. You can see that the orange one is the anchor box. And let's start our gradient descent algorithm to move the anchor boxes. And you can see that the CIU does a much better job than its counterparts in this example, where the aspect ratio of ground truth and anchor boxes are quite different. In about 160 something iterations, CIU had already converged, whereas DIUU and GIU have failed to converge to 1.0 IUU. Let's talk about how I am running the gradient descent and some details on learning rate, etc. for the experiments that I have shown so far. The DIU paper talks about the simulation experiment. So essentially I have implemented their simulation setup. They say that they take 500 points sampled uniformly in a circular region with a center of 10, 10 and radius of 3. Let's see it step by step. Here are the 5,000 points that are sampled uniformly. There are 7 ground truth boxes, all of area 1, but they have different aspect ratios and are placed at the center, that is 10, 10. And you can see them as green boxes in this picture. There are 49 anchor boxes that are placed on each sample point. The anchor boxes, I have shown them in orange color here. These 49 anchor boxes have 7 different scales and 7 different aspect ratios. Now, I am just showing you the anchor boxes at one location. There are 5,000 sample points. So in total, you have 49 multiplied by 5,000 anchor boxes in this experiment. Now, what the simulation experiment does is that it does regression between every single anchor box against every single target box, and they are independent of each other. This means that there are 1,715,000 regression cases. Here is now the algorithm to do the gradient descent. Note that there are 4 nested loops to run this experiment. The authors of this paper used MATLAB to conduct this experiment. I do not have access to MATLAB, so I tried Octave, the free open source equivalent to MATLAB. And as I tried to run their scripts, it was going to take many days to finish the experiment. And I tried that, but it crashed in the middle, so I had to give up on that. I then tried to write the experiment in PyTorch myself. However, the gradient computations in PyTorch require that your loss is a scalar value, which means that either you take the loss of all the anchor boxes, either you sum them up or you take a mean of them and then propagate the gradient back. But then this would not be compatible with the experiment, because here they really are treating every regression case as a separate case, meaning that you need to propagate gradient for a specific box using the loss between that anchor box and the ground truth box. So I wrote the loops in Python also to compute the loss per anchor box and gradient per anchor box. However, this was also taking time, actually many days. The naive loops are going to take longer time, whether you're using MATLAB or the PyTorch. And finally, I found a way to do it properly by using the new API introduced in PyTorch 2.0. The functional PyTorch API enables one to compute per sample gradients. There is a nice article in the documentation which clearly explains how to do that, and that solved my performance problems. Essentially, you write the loss function for one sample. You see here this function loss underscore one underscore sample, and then you use the vmap to parallelize the computations. This API is inspired by JAX library from Google, which takes pride in bringing functional programming to machine learning. This setup of using per sample gradients takes about 1 minute instead of many days for each loss function experiment. You will find the source code of all this that I have talked about as a nicely written Colab notebook. So do make sure to check it out. And finally, here are my results on the right and the results mentioned in the paper on the left. As you can see, my results are quite different. The GIU loss in my experiment converges faster than the DIU and CIU, and this makes no sense. Clearly, I'm making a mistake. At least that's what I thought. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out if I have a bug, if I am not following the accumulation of the losses that the author wants me to do. I end up understanding MATLAB code than I really wanted. But long story short, I could not figure out any obvious problem. So I was left with no choice but to report the results as an issue to the GitHub repo for the paper, and the author is very nice. He was very kind to reply back quickly and provided some interesting insights into why my results are different. What he did in his experiment was that he had used MATLAB code, the simulation experiment, and then he had a real true experiment using YOLO V3 network, but he had used the darknet implementation, which is the C implementation of YOLO V3. And in there, he had manually computed the derivatives of these loss functions. And he claims that it is the auto differentiation aspect of PyTorch that is not taking into consideration the directions that makes the difference. Now, this is a bummer. I don't want to write or compute the derivatives manually here. And to be honest, all the loss function implementations, GIU, CIU, DIU that you see that are available as part of either the object detection frameworks, libraries, or toolkits like Ultralytics, they don't do that either. So finally, the only way I could make sure that CIU is a better loss function than DIU and DIU is a better loss function than GIO is to sort of run this on a true setup instead of a simulation setup, which consists of a good size data set. So I picked up VOC data set and I use YOLO V5 Ultralytics repository. I had to go and change one line for the 3 experiments to specify which loss function I want to use. By default, it is CIU. So that's the only change I made between the 3 different experiments, just a flag really. And the final results also are more or less the same. You can see here the MAP is 0.46 almost for all 3 of them. But what is not visible here is that CIU indeed converged faster to a better MAP than the DIU and GIU. There were both DIU and CIU took lesser number of epochs to reach a better MAP. Long story short, CIU indeed is a better loss function overall. That's at least what this experiment proves and validates the finding of the paper. And that is all for the tutorial today. Hope you learned something new and different. Do check out per sample gradients in the notebook. Actually, that's what I'll really end up enjoying as part of this exercise. There are many useful areas in machine learning, especially the privacy enabled machine learning where these per sample gradients have a role to play. And let me know if you have any questions and feedbacks on the subject of these loss functions or anything else. And I wish you good luck with your learnings. Have a good day. Bye for now.